My name is Ray Dwyer, and I am your host to Dr. Joe Dispenza's discussion and meditation group. Tonight, we're discussing Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself, Chapter 1. Okay, Quantum You. Uh, this first segment, I read these segments and I thought, okay, I want to tech this, and but I need to do, and I got to this. And I was so frustrated with this because I couldn't find a part that I wanted to leave out. And so I said, okay, they wouldn't mind um, if I just shared for a few minutes. Here it is, share screen. And just share this part of the audiobook. It's just a few minutes of it. But you'll understand when I do it. I expect that you see my screen now.
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Okay.
Part 1. The Science of You. Chapter 1. The Quantum You. Early physicists divided the world into matter and thought, and later, matter and energy. Each member of those pairs was considered to be entirely separate from the other. But they're not. Nevertheless, this mind-matter duality shaped our early worldview, that reality was essentially predetermined, and that people could do little to change things through their own actions, let alone their thoughts. Fast forward to our current understanding, that we are part of a vast, invisible field of energy which contains all possible realities and responds to our thoughts and our feelings. Just as today's scientists are exploring the relationship between thought and matter, we're eager to do the same in our own lives. And so we ask ourselves, can I use my mind to create my reality? If so, is that a skill that we can learn and use to become who we want to be and to create the life we want to experience? Let's face it, none of us is perfect. Whether we'd like to make some change to our physical self, emotional self, or spiritual self, we all have the same desire. We want to live life as an idealized version of who we think and believe we can be. When we stand in front of the mirror and look at our love handles, we don't just see that slightly too pudgy vision reflected in the glass. We also see, depending on our mood that day, a slimmer, fitter version of ourselves, or a heavier, chunkier version. Which of our images is real? When we lie in bed at night reviewing our day and our efforts to be a more tolerant, less reactive person, we don't just see the parent who lashed out at our child for failing to quietly and quickly submit to a simple request. We envision either an angelic self whose patience was stretched like an innocent victim on the rack, or a hideous ogre laying waste to a child's self-esteem. Which of those images is real? The answer is, all of them are real. And not just those extremes, but an infinite spectrum of images ranging from positive to negative. How can that be? For you to better understand why none of those versions of self is more or less real than the others, I'm going to have to shatter the outmoded understanding about the fundamental nature of reality and replace it with a new one. That sounds like a major undertaking, and in some ways it is. But I also know this. The most likely reason why you were drawn to this book is that your past efforts to make any lasting change in your life, physical, emotional, or spiritual, have fallen short of the ideal of yourself that you imagined. And why those efforts failed has more to do with your beliefs about why your life is the way it is than anything else, including a perceived lack of will, time, courage, or imagination. Always, in order to change, we have to come to a new understanding of self and the world so that we can embrace new knowledge and have new experiences. That's what reading this book will do for you. Your past shortfalls can be traced at their root to one major oversight. you haven't committed yourself to living by the truth that your thoughts have consequences so great that they create your reality. The fact is that we are all blessed. We can all reap the benefits of our constructive efforts. We don't have to settle for our present reality. We can create a new one whenever we choose to. We all have that ability because, for better or worse, our thoughts do influence our lives. I'm sure you've heard that before, but I wonder whether most people really believe this statement on a gut level. If we truly embrace the notion that our thoughts produce tangible effects in our lives, wouldn't we strive to never let one thought slip by us that we didn't want to experience? And wouldn't we focus our attention on what we want instead of continually obsessing about our problems? Think about it. If you really knew that this principle were true, would you ever miss a day in intentionally creating your desired destiny?
That is the summation of our work that's ahead of us. All right. What I'd like is, instead of speaking out, we've got over 50 people online. Let's do hand raising, okay? And that way I can get sequence of things and stuff like that. Oh, I need to stop the share. There it is. And yeah. So on that, can I use my mind to create my reality? If so, is that a skill that we can learn and use to become who we want to be? That's one of the big parts of Dr. Joe's work, is that this is a skill. I am the most unlikely person you could imagine 5 years ago of being sitting in this seat discussing Dr. Joe's work. I can't exaggerate the degree of change I've had. Um, yeah, this is a skill. If you put in the time, change your mind to the rewiring level, you create a new life. It's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. It's not even an exaggeration. I wrote on the side page, if you approach this book by comparing it to what you already know, which would you choose? Don't do that. Just take the book, use it as a study. Please don't just read this book and put it on the shelf. You're wasting your time and an opportunity. You're not wasting my time because I'm just loving it. uh, this is a lab book. This is a lab for your life. Even if you learn the book, if you're not practicing and developing a skill, you're still missing out. Okay, now I begin. Any comments on that first little reading on that first segment? It's huge statements, very broad statements. Okay, no hands. Until you break from the way you see your present reality, any change in your life will always be haphazard and transitory. You have to overhaul your thinking about why things happen in order to produce enduring and desired outcomes. To do that, you'll need to open to a new interpretation of what is real and true. Down to the very interpretation of what is real about you will be challenged going through these books. What we were taught about reality in our little personal, what I was taught of reality and the spiritual kingdom doesn't hold up to what not only Dr. Joe says, but what modern science says. A lot of what we'll cover in these three books is the quantum, the theory, the energy. This chapter just might test your willingness to abandon ideas that have a sense being programmed into you for many years on a conscious and subconscious level. Yeah, we're going to be challenging your education. That education isn't just your science, but your culture. In fact, as you begin to embrace this new outlook, your very makeup as a human being will change. It is my wish that you will no longer be the same person you were when you began. Most faiths talk about setting aside the old man and becoming new. Until I had my major healing, I didn't fully appreciate what that expression meant. But I am so changed. That old man really is no longer a part of me. I'm talking from page 7 here. According to the classical Newtonian physics mode, all things were considered solid. For example, energy would be explained as a force to move objects or to change the physical state of matter. But as you will see, energy is much, much more than an outside force exerting on material. Energy is the very fabric of all things material and responsive to mind. I grew up in an age of Newtonian science, cause and effect. And then Einstein came along. Page 8. About 200 years after Newton, Albert Einstein produced his famous equation E equals mc squared, demonstrating that energy and matter are so fundamentally related that they are one and the same. Essentially, his work showed that matter and energy are completely interchangeable. This directly contradicts Newton's and Descartes' and ushers in a new understanding of the universe. Did you get that? There is no difference between matter and energy. Let me play with Einstein's equation for a moment to give you an idea of what we're talking about. E equals mc squared. Energy equals mass times the velocity of light squared. Or, in more layman's terms, energy equals mass sped up. Well, a little bit of algebra, if you turn it around, it says mass, that would be m equals E divided by c squared. A little bit of algebra. What that says is that mass equals energy slowed down. So essentially, all this is mass and energy are the same fabric except for the speed. When it's very fast, it's called energy. When it's very slow, it's called mass. But that fabric is energy, frequency, vibration, energy. Energy can neither be destroyed nor created. It only be transformed from one form to another. It's a rule.
Wave to particle, yeah.
That's it. And so when you look at things, what we'll do in this study with Dr. Joe is 100 times the question of this is all energy will come to mind. And it takes a while. It took me a while to have that as part of my consciousness, that I know I'm dealing with energy. I'm not dealing with a hard substance. My hard head is maybe a hard head, and my premises may be hard to get through. But what I'm dealing with are energies. And so I approach it differently now. It's not something unconquerable. All I have to do is transform energy from one frequency to another. I said it overly easy. All I have to do, as if it's easy. No, sometimes it's really, really hard. But that's the challenge. It's energy. Your car is a manifestation of energy. The pain in your heart from a breakup or a trauma is a manifestation of energy. The joy in your spirit is a manifestation of energy. If you're new to this work, that may be enough for you to go, I don't know if I can do this. Right? Okay. I'm just talking about a little bit of my early history. It's like, what? But So, according to Einstein, and it's been validated in every quantum science expression they have, everything is energy, without exception. It's just the vibration and the way the energy is packaged, vortexed, is all the difference. On page 10, nothing could be further from the truth as revealed by the quantum model. Atoms are mostly empty space. Atoms are energy. Think about this. Everything physical in your life is not solid matter. Rather, it's all fields of energy or frequency, patterns of information. All matter is more no thing than something. Here's a really funny thing. On the quantum level, nothing is steady state. As they do these very high level energy experiments, they notice particles are going in and out of existence like a blinking light. you know, we just appear to be present persistently. On a quantum level, we're not. Nothing is. The universe is a blinking light. It's just that they're all kind of scattered. Sean, thank you for raising your hand.
Yeah, to your point, every 60 seconds we make on average 2.5 million red blood cells. So there's a lot going on at the quantum level. It's happening. We don't realize it. We're not
So
consciously aware of it.
how persistent is our body if we're dying and being born again, rebuilt again, that consistently?
Yeah. And what was I thinking when it was coming into being? Like, oh,
Yeah.
thoughts. Cool.
Yeah, that's our body is not steady state. Here's a funny thing about the body. It's a little bit off target. Do you know you have more cells in your body that are not human DNA than the cells with human DNA? Now they're smaller than the human cells. Our human cells are rather large in comparison. But when you talk about all the viruses, all the bacteria, all the agencies that the human body carries, there's more non-human agents in your physical form on a cell by cell level than human. The correct way of saying it would be we are Ray, not I am Ray. Because I am Ray says I am this one entity. But this one entity is a trillion cells in a cooperative expression of life. So we are Ray. And we are constantly changing, renewing ourselves. Really strange when you get at that level of the conversation.
The one made up of many.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Page 12. From matter to energy. This is what makes the subatomic world unique. It possesses not just physical qualities, but also energetic qualities. In truth, matter on a subatomic level exists as a momentary phenomena. It's so elusive that it constantly appears and disappears, appearing into three dimensions, in time and space, and disappearing into nothingness, into the quantum field, in no space, no time, transforming from particle to wave, and vice versa. But where do particles go when they vanish? They just go to field. Isn't that something? The world wants you to think that your solid state, it's a persistent illusion, but when you study the energy, like what we're doing with Dispenza's work, and the value of knowing we are energy becomes more and more as we understand our consciousness is an expression of energy. And that's where creative power is. And so we're understanding, it's like we got to understand where we're coming from. And most of us are starting with, hey, I'm this guy, or gal. And we're working our way up into realizing like, oh, I'm this consciousness. And now we've done something, right? Are you beginning to see why this chapter is titled Quantum You? At the subatomic level, energy responds to your mindful attention and becomes matter. How would your life change if you learned to direct the observer effect and to collapse infinite waves of probability into the reality that you choose? Could you get better at observing the life you want? Now, this is a cool subject. What they found is that when they were studying at the quantum level and they were trying to test the model of the atom, when I was a kid, I got the solar system model of the atom, with the electrons going around like planets, and we used the solar system as a model of the atom, and we built stuff and drew pictures of it and stuff like that. Well, modern science says that is wrong, one of the many things, because the electrons are in a field of probability, and as you observe and you look for them, that wave field becomes a point, and it goes, oh, there it is. And they noticed that where they look, it appears. And they finally got a theory that says observing turns it into the particle. When you're not observing, it goes back into the field of probability. Huh? Really? Yeah, but that is the theory. And it converts from a wave, probability, to a point, reality. And that's at the quantum level. What if we could train ourselves to be such good observers of our life that on a large scale, we could observe our potential into reality? That's what we're learning to do. Literally create our lives from the infinite potential. That is not woo-woo. That's quantum science. That's why I love Dr. Joe's work. My friend Virginia Truman. Hello, I see your hand up. I can't help but poke you when I see you. I'm so happy to see you, Virginia.
I
Jenny.
unmute myself. Yeah, I think the thing that I've been working on for years and years is looking at observing myself. Who am I creating myself to be that I'm
Yes.
not conscious about? So it's kind of like stepping back. Okay, so I can create who I want to be, or I create my life to be something else. But what am I doing right now, unconsciously, that I'm not even aware of, that's impacting my life? Probably to negative. Some of the stuff's going to be negative. Talk about that trauma thing. So I'll quit talking about the trauma. It's one thing I do. I don't want to keep relaying it into my neurology. Shut up, Jenny. Don't talk about that.
But you bring up the really important point of what we're working on, and that is all the default programs that we inherited as we grew up into our adulthoods, all the times that we were in school and we were taught things again and again and again and again, so it got into our autonomic nervous system. Our parents taught us their culture again and again and again until it got in the nervous system. Our culture as in our teenage years and young adult years that we immersed ourselves in, and we heard it again and again and again, and we got these programs in us that we say, this is who I am. No, it's not who you are. It is a program that they chose to define you. You didn't do it. Unless you chose your teacher, you did not choose your program. We'll go through this work and we'll talk about new knowledge gives you new choices, and new choices drives down an experience. But the knowledge that you choose from depends on the teacher that you got. Any single teacher can give you an assortment of knowledge, and if you choose different things from that same teacher, you're going to end up in the same place because that teacher's premise is all the same. So if you want new knowledge, look for a new teacher, because You're where you are because of the teachers that gave you that knowledge, that gave you these choices that you're making today, that give you these experiences today. That's how it works. Thank you, Jenny. You are powerful enough to influence matter because at the most elementary level, you are energy with consciousness. You are mindful matter. How's that for a cool statement? You, the person on the end of these speakers, person sitting there with the book going, what is Dr. Joe talking about? You are energy with consciousness. An important concept we'll hear all this year as we go through all three books. The quantum universe is just waiting for a conscious observer, you or me, to come along and influence energy in the form of potential matter by using the mind and consciousness to make waves of energetic probabilities coalesce into physical matter. Now that is a cool statement. The universe is just waiting for a consciousness to put attention on a probability so that it can coalesce into matter. It's like there's a huge pool of raw material, and all you have to do is instruct it, and you instruct it by observing it in your consciousness to such clarity that it forms and becomes matter. I think that is just an amazing concept. He says, but I'm just a guy. I'm just, hey, this is a human thing. I'm no mystic. I'm not some guru sitting on a pillow on a stage going, oh, I'm just a guy that have developed a skill in what Dr. Joe says and has had some amazing experiences because of it. The physical body is organized patterns of energy and information, which is unified with everything in the quantum field. There, put your finger on it. Here it is. The physical body, your body, is energy and information. Unified with everything else. It's not separate. Our culture wants to say we're separate from everything. On a matter-to-matter basis, we are. This thing is here and that thing is there, and two things cannot occupy the same space. But that's not what we're talking about here. This person has an energy field. That person has an energy field. And we are more intertwined than your wildest imagination. We do occupy the same space. And as we go through the books, you'll become more and more aware of it and in tune to it. It's really amazing. What you'll find is that statement in scriptures, what we do to others, we do unto ourselves. We are so intertwined that, well, we are energy beings, and energy it's all mixed together. It's all, at this point in the book, I have a hard time saying the words. What do I say? Over on page 19. Dr. Rain's experiment. He first studied a group of 10 individuals who were well practiced in using techniques of heart math teaching to build heart-focused coherence. They applied the technique to produce strong, elevated feelings such as love and appreciation in 2 minutes. This little experiment that they're talking about on page 19 and 20, they had some DNA. And you know what DNA looks like. It's a spiral helix and connecting ladders. And the goal of the meditation experiment for these people was, one time they just said, I want you to focus your energy on unraveling this DNA. Just focusing it like a mechanical work. And after a period of time, the group had little or no effect on the DNA. The second group gave it to him and says, now I want you to just love the DNA. Let's see what effect it has. At the end of the time, loving the DNA, putting your heart emotion into it, didn't change the DNA. Probably helped it get healthier, but didn't change the DNA. And then the third time they said, I want you to love the DNA, but I want you to love the DNA with an instruction to unravel the spirals. Put emotional energy into it. Put your heart into it as well as your mind. 25% of the DNA unraveled. The point of this experiment is that, and it's an important point, it's not just the attention. It's not just emotion. It's the mind-heart connection that makes the magic work. And that's another lesson we'll talk about all year long. And we'll up the scale of understanding of that as we go. And that's why my little YouTube channel is called Race Quest, Body and Mind. Isn't that something? That you can actually affect test tube DNAs? Technical, scientific facts? Amazing. On page 20, I find it a useful model to think of thoughts as electrical charge in the quantum field and feelings as magnetic charge in the field. The model that you read about, and it will be mentioned, is that when you have an intention, it's like sending out a signal into the quantum. It's like turning on a light that says, this is the model, this is the plan. But the heart is magnetic. It's a different type of frequency. Its purpose, its work, is to magnetize it and draw it back to you. So one is to say the plan, and the heart is to draw it to you. And they walk together. This walking together is something that you see as far back as the Kabbalah. That's the oldest knowledge that I've studied. It goes back before the Hebrew time of Abraham, in the Sumerian text and Myrrh and things like that. The Kabbalah is very ancient, and they understood the male-female energy. The male energy being the intent, the female energy being the magnetic coming back. You need them both. It's a formula for life. It's how the universe is. The thoughts we think send an electrical signal out into the field. The feelings we generate magnetically draw events back to us. Together, how we think and how we feel produces a state of being, which generates a magnetic signature that influences every atom in our world. This should prompt us to ask, what am I broadcasting consciously? Jenny mentioned about her default, just I'm working in my meditation, but what about the rest of my day? The little worries that come up because we have the habit of worrying, or the little programs that come up just because we've just been doing it so long, right? Those are effective too. They're sending out an electrical signal and a magnetic signal also. We are energy beings. We are continuously sending out energy. And so part of this work is to not just achieve a phenomenal meditation, but to absorb that phenomenal meditation and see how long we can carry that energy throughout our day. We'll cover that more as we go through and talk about that specific idea. It's really important. But that's what this is talking about. What am I broadcasting on a daily, moment-by-moment basis? If you could create a new electromagnetic field by changing your state of being, which would match the potential in the quantum field of information. Is it possible that your body would be drawn to the event, or that event would be find you? Do you understand the potential that we're talking about? If you can create in a meditative state an event in your mind and tune your mind and heart to it, do you really think that you could lock on to a potential in the infinite and you be drawn to it and it is drawn to you? Do you understand that this process has a way of turning your life a little bit? Sometimes abruptly, sometimes, but in general, it turns your life, and that you are actually drawing events to you. But this works in an indifferent manner. If you're a worry bug, you are drawing what you worry. If you're a fearful person, you are drawing to you what you fear. What are you drawing to you on a moment by moment basis? Well, just look around. If you're drawing to you things you don't like, maybe there's something in you that you can work on to start choosing that new potential and wearing it, experiencing it on the hardest, in the heart deep level. That was on page 21. If you could create a new electromagnetic field by changing your state of being, your state of being, remember, is your intention and your heart. If you change that, your electromagnetic beingness changes. And that's kind of the goal of the deep meditations that you learn over the year with Dr. Joe. And once that match exists between who we are being, not who we think we are, but in our meditation, as we tune to this new existence, this new beingness, once that match exists between who we are being, what we are broadcasting, and the electromagnetic potential in the field, we will be pulled toward that potential of reality, and it will find us. That's how it works. That's why we practice meditation. If you listen to Dr. Joe's conferences, he doesn't say we're mysticals. He says we're, or anything like that. He says, have you done the work? Are you practicing your work? Because this is a new skill for your mind. It builds new neural pathways. To change your life is to change your energy, to make an elemental change in your mind and emotions. If you want a new outcome, you'll have to break the habit of being yourself and reinvest a new self. That's what this book is about. It took me months. How bad do you want it? If you sit down this week and do the meditations, and at the end of the week you look around and go, nothing, and quit, I'm telling you, that ain't enough. How bad do you want it? This isn't woo-woo. This isn't just taking a pill. This really is science. This really is the human experience. Now, we all are different. I've talked to people that seem like they do it and they just fall in. It's like, how did you do that? It took me so much heartfelt work. Virginia, I see your hand up.
I just wanted everybody to think about they've done this already in their life on something that they've been passionate about.
Yes.
And that all manner of things intuitively, start working towards you having what you want, because you've got so much energy, so much attention on it that you live and breathe that thing, and it starts to come into reality, So I'm saying everybody has that experience somewhere in their life if they look.
Yes, that's a good point. Thank you. That's maybe some people ought to say examples of that. Thank you, Virginia. That was really a good lead.
Mm.
Sean.
Yeah, I want to piggyback on what you just said, Virginia. That's such a great point that probably a lot of us have called. So the thing that we're going to dig into here, the thing that Dispenza is uncovering for us, um, things in our life that we used to call luck.
Mhm.
We just misunderstood what was going on. We're about to
Yes.
redefine life and understand it in this new way. He's going to do that in this book right here. And like Virginia said, we've already been doing this. We don't have to learn how to do anything. We're just learning what it is that we've been doing so we can take responsibility for it and guide it with conscious intention, like purposefully.
Oh, well said. Yeah. Well said. That is yeah. So we can choose and consciously create our life. Most of my life was subject to what I was taught by somebody else. I wasn't really choosing it. I thought I was, but that was part of the illusion. All I was doing was choosing different items on a menu that I didn't create, and I was so out of control. But yeah, let's what we're learning to do is to consciously choose. Very good. Anybody else got something to add to that point? That was good. Um,
I
uh,
like, I like your point. Choosing from a menu that you thought you were choosing, but you were only choosing from a limited menu, and you didn't realize the menu was limited. That's profound. Nice.
yeah, yeah, and that's what most of us do. Thinking so because I was kind of a hard-headed guy. I was Mr. Tough guy. I choose my life. But when I started doing this work and I thought about what I was choosing, all I was choosing was from a menu that somebody else gave me that I didn't choose. And so I wasn't really choosing. I was just reacting to a very limited spectrum of knowledge.
And Ray, I'll add to that too. A lot of times that statement, when it rains, it pours, you're in alignment with something at that time. So you get a new customer, you get a new account, you're excited. Boom, here comes another one. Here comes another one.
Yeah.
If you're attracting it, you're aligned with that vibration.
Yes.
So I think that pretty much sums it up too.
Yeah, Billy, I see your hand.
Hey guys, I just wanted to add that when I'm working out and I'm thinking about doing a new exercise and I watch that video, I imagine in my mind doing that perfect form with the breathing in line. And over time, I've noticed when I go work out and do the actual workout, I can do very technical lifts without anybody teaching me. And I think I apply that same principle to my life where I was working at Taco Bell, but I was always good with computers. And I basically, when everybody was hanging out, I would be on the BMW website or, hooking up a car and be like, hey, once I get my certification, this is what I'm going to buy. And it really motivated me to sit down and study hours and hours. And I got my Cisco certified network administrator certification when I was younger. And I think it's just creating that reality that you want
Yes.
and imagining it and aligning your goals with the your current day-to-day goals should align with your long-term goal. Otherwise, it's not going to happen.
Yes, that's how you do it. Thank you, Billy. That was good. Yeah, you tune in your intent and your heart, and you see your future self. You experience your and it becomes a state of being. And we'll go into much more detail to that, and over the books. But yeah, that was good. That's how it's done. Very good. Um, Now we can come to an important word, coherence. When I first started this work, I didn't understand the word coherence. This little story about what a laser is, I didn't I read it. Coherence in laser talk is when uh, light, which is generally kind of a multi-frequency, becomes a single frequency, and the waves move together, and the energy is very vastly added, so that in a single point, a simple light bulb produces a lot of heat. Well, what's that got to do with me? I'm not a single band of light. Well, that's what the word coherence is about, is when frequencies become so attuned that the wavelength is the same. And when you become an experienced person with meditation, there's you can become so sensitive to the field of meditation with other people that you can feel the energies all of a sudden become so additive, attuned, coherent, that amazing things happen that is so out of the ordinary, so out of the expected. That's kind of what we're talking about with coherence. If your intentions and desires haven't produced consistent results, you've probably been sending an incoherent mixed message into the field. You may want wealth, you may think wealthy thoughts, but if you feel poor, you aren't going to attract financial abundance to yourself. Why not? Because thoughts are the language of the brain and feelings are the language of the body. You're thinking one way and feeling another. When the mind is in opposition to the body, the field won't respond in a consistent way. Instead, when the mind and body are working together, when our thoughts and feelings are aligned, when we are in a new state of being, then we are sending a coherent signal on the airwaves of the invisible. Ray's quest, body and mind. My quest is to be coherent, body and mind. My quest is to help others learn the wonders of being coherent, body and mind. That's what this statement is about. If you're thinking one thing, I want it, I want it, I want it, and your heart goes, I'm not worthy, I can never do that. I'm not smart enough to learn to do that. No one loves me. You're sending out two totally different signals, and the universe goes, I don't know what he wants. He doesn't know what he wants. So when we learn to be coherent in our mind and our heart, wonderful things happen. Hello, Jenny. I see your hand.
Yeah, I think that everybody, if they really look and tell the truth, they all have an inner critic that sits there and makes judgments about us. And part of this work is to quit paying attention to that sucker because 99% of it's bullshit.
Yes. Isn't that hard to do?
I
But
know.
it is really hard to do. But
Yeah.
that's a big part of the early work, is to quieting that inner critic. Yeah. I know that was something I was challenged by. I was so unworthy. Oh man, I didn't deserve this. I didn't deserve my healing. I didn't deserve the divine love. I didn't, I'm just this grumpy old veteran that did horrible things. You know, who am I to be loved by the divine? To quiet that inner critic and to forgive your past. My word of forgiveness is to be set free of your past. And a karmic debt is a big part of the healing that we will discuss over the year. And we will probably be discussing it all the way through the end of Supernatural. Yeah, that inner critic is a major obstacle for many people.
And a part of the process, right? Like as soon as we name the change that we would like to see within ourselves, then life is going to reflect everything within us that doesn't belong now. It's going to call it up to the surface. We're going to now that's the river of change that Dispenza talks about, right? Like, oh crap, how did I wind up here? Well, it's because I asked for something new and different, and I can't take this garbage with me. So it's going to show up, and then each of us goes through however you go through it. But know that the uncomfortable is going to come if it's with us and it doesn't belong with the new you, then it's going to come up for healing, for release.
What an observation. Because I want this over here, the stuff that I don't want shows up. It's like, what? I
That
want
I've been
this over
carrying
here.
around.
And yet, it shows up because that's your old you. That's programs in you that says, no, that new stuff doesn't have a place. So if you want that new stuff, you've got to learn to deal with your old stuff and let go of it.
I
And
recommend love. I
yeah,
recommend doing it with love.
that's it. If you amplify it with that was ugly, all you're doing is amplifying it and tying it tighter to you. You gotta learn to love yourself, and just just we go into a lot of conversations over the year for this one particular topic. That's why it's already here in the first chapter of the book. Is that it quieting that inner critic? You're trying to do this, and the old self shows up because it's not this new thing. Learning how to deal with that old stuff. Look at this first chapter of the first book, and that's how important this topic is. Learning how to heal that old critic.
Yeah, we have a great example in the space race when Kennedy said we're going to have a man on the moon by the end of the decade. What immediately came up was from everybody was, well, this, we can't do this, we can't do that. This is the right. So they identified what they needed to resolve or get answers to so that they could get a man on the moon. So it's a really good thing,
Yes.
that comes up as all the things why you can't.
Yes. It's simply part of the human expression. It's not you. You're not you're not all messed up because it confronts you. No, this is the human expression, human experience because you were tied to this other stuff because that was efficient at the time. Now you're going to do something else. You have to learn to put this other stuff away. We all do. This is a human thing. So for me, when I was doing this at first, I beat myself up. Oh, I'm such a terrible person. It took me a while to realize, like, hey, this is stuff everybody goes through. This is simply a human experience. And I went, oh, well, now when it does it, I just go, okay, this is, now that I'm doing this new, oh, Sean, I love that you pointed that out. Now that I'm doing this new stuff, my old stuff is trying to say, hey, what about me? What about me? Okay, we're going to just give you peace. Remember, these old memories are energy vortexes, little swirlies of energy in your field. Okay? And they're out there, and therefore efficiency and your survival. Well, energy can either be created or destroyed. They are not going to go away. You push them away, they'll come back. What you want to do is convert them. So you convert them, you love them, and now you can bring that stray energy that's causing chaos into you to do what they're meant to do, and that's heal you and make you stronger. So instead of fighting them away, you heal them, you love them, you bring them into yourself, and you make yourself stronger by it. It's an amazing thought process, and I said that very lightly. But when you practice that and get what I'm saying on that, it changes your life and makes you amazing.
Nice. And
Really,
that's the thing that what you just described is what Dispenza points to and calls wisdom, right? When
yeah,
we can come out the other side of those, seeing those triggers and those traumas and dancing with them instead of resisting them, becoming one with them without the trigger, without the emotional charge. And there's that wisdom there, and we've expanded
yeah,
through the experience.
You're
yeah.
really being
It's
the alchemist.
Yeah, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
nice.
cool. Yeah, good points. I'm so grateful that you guys brought it up. Strive to create an unknown, a new future experience. I'm on page 25. Then, when an unforeseen event occurs in your favor, you will be pleasantly surprised. You just became a quantum creator. You just went from cause and effect to causing an effect. What this was about is that in creating, you want to create something that's unexpected. If you expect it, what you've done is create a path from your past to your future. And so all you're doing is projecting your past onto your future and thinking you're creating something new. No, you're just continuing building from your past. What you want to do is create a potential from your future, in your future, that is not connected to your past. I don't even know how to say it other than the way that Dr. Joe says it. I'll be with you in just a moment. Hold a clear intention of what you want, but leave the how details to the unpredictable quantum field. Let it orchestrate an event in your life in a way that is just right for you. If you're going to expect anything, expect the unexpected. Surrender. trust and let go of how a desired event will unfold. Oh man, that's a hot word for me. Surrender. It was almost a year of doing this work before I gave up that word, or gave up the resistance to it anyway. Namita, is that how you say your name?
Yeah. Sorry, I raised my hand when we were talking about coherence.
Oh,
I guess every topic is related.
yeah.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to add, for sure, like, when you're in part in brain coherence, like Dr. Joe says again and again, it works. I did this for 2 months, and I'm gonna start doing this again. Like I did heart coherence with the heart math monitor, and also breath work. So so the energy in the heart, it goes to the brain, and then the breath work also gets a lot of energy to the brain. And I started having synchronicities after synchronicities, like very, like, I mean, literally mystical experiences.
Isn't that great?
So yeah, and so, like, this work works. And just to clarify, I've been doing the work for many years, but, like, only recently I got totally into it, and I was like, I'm going back to the basics. This is why I joined the book club here, and because it's just I don't want to miss out on any information. I want to, like, try to learn everything. Um,
Well,
and
great.
Yeah,
Let
and
me let me ask you a question, Namita.
sure,
Do
sure.
you consider yourself a mystical person, or is this a skill you're developing?
Oh, it's definitely a skill I'm developing. I'm a spacecraft engineer by profession.
Well, that's
And
about as unmystical as it gets, an
yes,
engineer.
yes. So, like, very logical, very, like, analytical. But no, but and I never even felt energy. The first time I went to a retreat, that was 2018. And that's when I, like, that was the first time I actually felt healing energy. And I was like, oh my God, like, even though I had heard of, the quantum physics of spirituality and stuff before, but I was very analytical. And it took me, like, so it took me time to, like, really, get to the root of these teachings and experience it. One thing is to
Yes.
understand, and the other thing is to really experience it.
Yes.
So yeah, so I mean, honestly, this work works. And a couple of things I wanted to share. Recently, I also understood that coherence of the mind, um in qigong, they say, like, even the place you're at, right, like your home or your office or wherever, if it's clutter free and if it's organized, that's coherence, and that affects your mind coherence, like your brain coherence. And apparently there are images that also send signals to your brain for coherence. So just FYI, like, I mean, I didn't know this before, so
Oh,
yeah.
yeah. Everything is a symbol. Everything is a symbol. If
Hmm.
everything is energy, when we process energy in our cortex, in our mind creates symbols of meanings. This looks like an object, but when I talk energy talk, this is a symbol because all this is a block of energy vortex. I've
Hmm.
created a symbol with meaning. Understand? So everything is a symbol, and all symbols affect our consciousness and our anatomic system. So pictures matter, sound matters, smells matters. They're all symbols that we process. This little tree here is a wonderful
Hmm.
symbol in my mind. For those who know
Right. Tree of life.
the yeah, for those who know the story behind that's a wonderful symbol in my mind, and it kind of keeps the bigger picture in me. Every now and then, being a tech head that I am, I tend to get pointed on a point. Well, that tells me there's no such thing as a point. Everything is part of a whole. Thank you.
Amazing. Nice.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Namina. That was good contribution. That was good. Just it is a skill, and being coherent is an important practice, but it's a skill. Yeah, this is good today. This is really good. I I was kind of concerned of whether just how this was going to go, but I really like it so far. Okay, I'm on page 26 now. Generally, we are grateful for something that already happened or is already present in our lives. You and I have been conditioned into believing that we need a reason for joy, a motivation to feel gratitude, grounds to be in a state of love. That's relying on external reality to make us feel differently internally. That's the Newtonian model. The new model of reality challenges us further down. Can you give thanks and feel the elevated emotions associated with a desired event before it occurs? Can you imagine that reality so completely that you begin to be in that future life now? In terms of quantum creating, can you give thanks for something that exists as a potential in the quantum field but has not yet happened in your reality? If so, you are moving from cause and effect to causing an effect. That's how it's done. When you are in a state of gratitude, you transmit a signal into the field that an event has already occurred. Gratitude is more than an intellectual thought process. You have to feel as though whatever you want in your reality is at this very moment. Thus, your body must be convinced that it has the emotional quotient of the future experience happening to you now. That's what we're trying to achieve. That's what we're discussing in a very open beginning statement, is that when you can have an experience in your meditation so remote from your physical world that in your inner self you are experiencing it, not a picture on the wall. When I was younger, I took meditation training and stuff like that, and I don't know what they taught, but what I learned was a picture on the wall, and I would project my mind on that picture, and I would see that picture, and I'd imagine action of that picture. That's all this part. That's all the head part. Remember when that DNA experience, when they told him to see the change and nothing happened? That's what happened. Nothing happened. you know. But Dr. Joe says, take that and go a step further and let your emotions be a part of it. Let your heart be a part of it. Can you participate in it? We've all gone to movies where we come out of the movie blown away because we were so engrossed, body and mind, in the events of the story. It was so well told, so shown that our body is responding moment to moment. We all have been there. This isn't strange stuff. This is what we do. But as it was mentioned a moment ago, can we consciously, deliberately create this instead of going with somebody else's ride, somebody else's story? And that's what we're after, is learning a meditation, learning to meditate, creating a new lifestyle where this is who we are, that we can create an intent and a heart and become so engrossed in it that while we're in it, we are being that future. But the early part of this, can you be grateful about something that you don't have? I knew I grew up as I love you because, or I thank you because, I am grateful because. We're not talking about anything that says because. We're talking about raising our vibration, our energy, our consciousness, so that as we rest in the field and tune to that potential and tune our body so our body responds to that and be grateful in it, just gratitude, just love, just turn on a light, not because of, except for just for the joy of it. There's a lot of joy in it, trust me. Yeah, okay. And just turn it on and just be grateful. Just like, oh, look what I'm doing. I'm creating. I'm experiencing a future potential that has nothing to do with my day. It's out there, and I'm drawing it to me, and I'm being drawn to it. That's how it works. To be grateful without a reason. Really cool stuff. We've talked about two aspects of consciousness: the objective consciousness, intellect, of the field, and the subjective consciousness of the free will, self-aware individual. When we emulate the properties of this awareness, we are becoming creators. When we feel resonance with this loving intelligence, we become like it. This intelligence will orchestrate an event, an energetic response to match whatever the subjective mind puts out into the quantum field. And that's where our practice meditation comes in. When our will matches its will, when our mind matches its mind, when our love for life matches its love for life and you, we are enacting this universal consciousness. We become the elevated power that transcends the past, heals the present, and opens the door to the future. Some really important comments here. That last one first. We become the elevated power. We become the conscious creator of our life instead of a default effect of all our society programming. We heal our past, our present, and our future self and into a present self, present moment. Present moment's a big subject in the book Becoming Supernatural. As you heal all these things, your energy, my energy, was divided away from me. My past was ugly and I kept pushing it away. My future was impossible, so I could never achieve it. My today was in pain and sick, so it was just a miserable. I was like this, okay? As I learned this, I started healing my past. My future became something exciting to do, and my present moment become a loving experience, and I became a single self. And that's the power behind my healings and other things that happen about me. That sentence has a lot in it. This intelligence will orchestrate an event and an energetic response to match whatever the subjective mind puts out. We are creators. We have not only the power, the authority, the permission that's part of who we are to send ripples of waves into the field of the universe. It will respond to us when we get this right. It just will, not because we're something unique or special, but because that's who we are. We are potentially conscious creators. That's who we are. We are expressions of the divine. So's this, by the way. All of us are energy, but we're conscious energy. Remember that statement earlier? And we can consciously stir the field, and that field will respond to us if we give it the right engineering equation. If we do things the way the rules are set up to do, intent and emotion, the energy that goes out and the magnetic field that draws it back, if we get this balance and figure this out, the universe will respond. That's just how it's made. That's just the universe. Page 30. The question at the heart of this book is, why don't we send out a signal that will produce a positive outcome for us? Why don't we do it? How can we change so that this signal we send out matches what we intend to produce in our lives? We will change when we fully commit to the belief that by choosing the thought signal we send out, we will produce an effect that is observable. We don't because we don't know it and we don't fully believe it. It's a reasonable human thing. We don't know it. We haven't been exposed to the teaching. And we don't fully believe it because it's really so contrary to what even our culture is, never mind our education. So what we have to do is experiment with it, practice it, go into meditation, and like going into a kitchen and making a new recipe, stir it up, find what works for you, follow the recipe, and then modify it for you. But if you never follow the recipe in the beginning, you'll never get it right. With this objective intelligence, we are not punished for our sins, but by them. When we project into the field a signal based on thoughts and feelings produced by some undesirable experience in our past, is it any wonder that the field responds with the same negative way? The word sin means miss the mark. Don't make too big a deal out of it. If we are a worrisome person and we're putting out an energy of an intent of worry and a heart of fear, wonder why your life is chaotic? You're putting out is returning. You are consciously creating a world of chaos. When you do create purposefully, request a sign from the quantum consciousness that you have made contact with it. Dare to ask for synchronicities related to your specific desired outcomes. When you do, you are being bold enough to want to know that this consciousness is real and that it's aware of your efforts. Once you accept this, then you can create in a state of joy and anticipation. Remember that question just a moment ago? Why don't we do it? We don't do it because we don't believe it? Well, when you start feeling in your meditation that you're stirring energy, and there's a place that, talking about me again, when I first started, I knew I was just doing my head work. I could feel it. It was just all head, and I wasn't connecting. I knew it. But then I learned some things, and I started feeling something new rise up in me. And I remember this statement. Well, if you think that you're really stirring, ask for a reply. Ask for synchronicities. Ask for little things to happen about you as, okay, Ray, I heard you. We're paying attention. Ask for it. It's just like not going to hurt anything. I mean, what do you think? You're going to offend the divine? No, he's just like, no, my beloved son is asking for attention. Here, let me respond to him. Let me stir the energy a little bit. Let the energy stir. Well, you stirred the energy, and the energy will give you a sign. That's how it works. So just ask. And when you feel that response, let yourself have joy and gratitude for it. It's really part of the equation. Kathleen, I see your hand up.
It's actually Kathy.
Oh, Kathy.
I need to change that. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I got you, Kathy.
Great. Yeah, first I just want to say it's so nice to be part of other people who are doing this, just to connect. I also wanted to say that I've heard Dr. Dispenza say the best we can do for others is this work for ourselves. And I was a bit of a fixer before, and if I saw a situation, I'd either be in prayer or I'd be giving suggestions. Since I've been doing this, I know the best thing I could do to help them is do this work for myself. And then people are changing. People are being freed from stuff, and I'm not saying anything. And it's not that I don't pray for others anymore. I do this first. This is like the work. And I'm just seeing amazing things happen for people around me. So I just wanted to share that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's so right. When your light is on, it creates an energy field that the people around you feel. They may not understand it, but they feel it. They really do. Um, in the last week, I gave a lesson on symbols, and we talked about one of the things I do sometimes. I go to the grocery store, I go to Walmart sometimes, and I used to go there and it'd just be almost an adversarial, just like be on your guard, there's all kind of crazy people, I was one of the crazy people, but I didn't know it at the time. Well, anyway, that's another subject. But what I've learned is that I can do what you're saying now, and I do that, is I go in and I feel the challenge. And so instead of responding to the challenge, kind of like that driving a change, I would remember what I practiced and I'd turn on love. And I'd just go in with an intent to love and let love around the people, let my love shine on the people I pass in the aisles and in the register and things like that. And my experience now going to stores is a whole trip now. It's like, oh, this is cool stuff I'm learning. Because just by being what I'm learning to be touches the lives of people around me. You're right, Kathy. Just um, I go to the VA Medical Center for medical checkups, and they look at my reports and go, "How did you do this, Ray?" "Oh, I just know how to take care of myself." I don't explain because they don't understand, and all it will do is bring conflict in conversation. Uh, they don't want to know about meditation and stuff like that. So I just say, "Oh, I just know how to take care of myself." So taking care of myself is touching people around me. Very right. Dare to ask. This principle asks us to lay down what we think we know, surrender to the unknown, then they observe the effect in the form of feedback to our lives. And that is the best way to learn. There's that word surrender. Took me a long time. I was a hard head on that word. Anybody else having trouble with the word surrender? Whew. But it's an important word because surrender is what it takes to give up this consciousness thing. Because you got to give up the analytical mind to the awareness. And that's what you're giving up. You're not giving up your safety. You're not giving up your health. You're not giving up your mind. You're giving up the rulership of the analytical you to the awareness of you, the particle you to the wave you. And when you move into the field, this guy just sits down. When I first started, I kept trying to demand my analytical to sit. It's kind of like that conversation we had just a moment ago about change. Change. And my mind says, to what? Well, I don't know, just change. Well, it doesn't work that way. Once I learned to go into the field, this hard-nosed analytical mind just naturally surrendered because by being busy in the field, this guy was told, I don't need you right now, take a break. And he did. That's surrender. When you can let go of that analytical mind and go into the field and rest your consciousness there, you are surrendering the control of your analytical mind to the field. It's a funny contradiction of terms. Instead, the quantum model demands that our understanding of reality not be based on our senses. In the process of creating future reality via the quantum model, our senses should be the last to experience what the mind has created. The very last thing we experience is sensory feedback. Why? This is going to talk about this book is divided into 3 parts. And this next point describes those first part. So why is senses the last part? Well, because senses, your emotions, your physical emotions, as we talk about many times throughout these books, is the end, it's the caboose of a whole chain of reactions. But we'll go into that. The quantum is a multidimensional reality that exists beyond your senses. I'm reading from page 32. In a realm where there is no body, no thing, no time, thus to move into your domain and create from that paradigm, you'll need to forget about your body for a little while. This paragraph is talking about your 3 lower energy centers. Your lowest energy center is called the body energy center. There's the whole list of words for that energy center that go from the anatomical nerve ganglions to the peridium, which is the triangular bone, to just your number one energy center. But here it is. Let me read this opening statement again to get you in sync. The quantum is a multi-dimensional reality that exists beyond your senses, in a realm where there is no body, no time, no thing, no time. Thus, to move into the domain and create from that paradigm, you'll need to forget about your body. You need to get past that first energy center. You'll also have temporary shift in awareness away from your external environment. As we study in the second chapter, our next chapter, we'll talk about the environment, and your environment is your second energy center. All of those things you identify with in your life, your spouse, your kids, your possessions, your problems, all part of your identity. Through them, your identity with the outer world. That's all responsive in your second energy center. And finally, you'll have to lose track of linear time. That's your third energy center. Isn't it ironic that to influence your reality, environment, heal your body, your second energy center, change some of the events in your future time, your third energy center, to completely let go of your external world, no thing, you have to release your awareness of your body, no body. You have to lose track of time, no time. In effect, you have to become pure consciousness. That's the goal of the meditation over time. Do that, and you have dominion over your environment. That's the second energy center. Over your body, that's the first energy center. And over time, the third energy center. He says, I affectionately call these the big three. And since the subatomic world of the field is made purely of consciousness, you cannot enter any other way via the consciousness yourself. You want to go into the kingdom of the field? This body doesn't go there. And as long as your consciousness is holding on to this body, this environment, this time, you're stuck here. So as we practice the meditations, not this week, but next week, we'll start into the blessing of the energy centers. We'll start exercising letting go of those first energy centers. If you can't do it right away, welcome to the real world. It took me months because I was so one of these kind of guys. To break the habit of being myself took me a while. Do I think it's worth it? Oh, man. So that's the big part of the early meditations, is the blessing of the energy centers. Ginny Mind, raised hand. Hello, Ginny.
Hi, Ray. I just wanted to say, maybe you can. I've heard Dr. Joe Dispenza speak about that we have to kill our identity, our old self, completely before we can assume the new identity. So, would you say that this falls into the energy centers of removing the body, environment, and time? Which is what he was talking about killing ourselves completely, like our old personality, and creating a new one.
There's religious teachings that talk about the old man dying and a new man being born. That's kind of the mindset of that, what he says, in my opinion. But the short answer to what you said is yes. When you really succeed at what we're talking about, and it took me a while. I'm not saying it, I just did it. It took me a while. You really do fundamentally change. You change the very identity of your energy. I had an energy identity that said, I am this, and most of it was all the darkness of my past. And I held on to it because that is who I am. I'm a mad Irishman. I did my genealogical stuff, and I've got Irish and Nordic and things like that in me. I was a Viking. I was all this violent stuff. It justified my anger and my aggression. And that's who I was. That person died. That person doesn't exist. That person is buried in my past. I have this new self that has evolved and grown out of the seed of a couple of amazing events. And so I could say that man died. I won't go as far as saying I killed him. I just kind of turned my back on him and became this new person. But but this isn't unique to our work. Uh, my Christian background says when you're baptized, the old man dies and is washed away, and a new man comes out of the water. This is a very common teaching among a lot of different systems. There's a lot of different words for it. Hello, Sean.
Howdy, howdy. Yeah, to piggyback on what you're saying, Ray, and the right dying to the old. Um, that like as we prune neural networks, we hear Dispenza talk about that. As we prune the old neural networks, the old patterns, the old behaviors, and then we establish new behaviors, new thoughts and feelings, new neural networks. Um, then we're creating the new us and the dying to the old. As we don't do the thing that we no longer want to do, as we don't react the way as we become conscious of the things we were unconscious of, and then we begin to stop being, right? Stop it, as Ray says in traffic, right? Or used to say in traffic. That's us dying to the old way that we used to be and establishing a new way of being. And there's the transformation, and it's happening all the time, every day. We have numerous opportunities, right? All
Yes.
day.
Yeah, it's incremental. Sometimes you'll make big steps,
Yeah.
but overall, there's very many incremental steps. I had a big event, but I had 9 months of little events leading up to it. And if I didn't cooperate with those 9 months, if I said, that's too, I would have never had my big event that really changed my life. So yeah, there's a lot of incremental little steps, like Sean said. Lynn, hello.
Yeah, thank you. Just adding to that also, just speaking life, is so important, I find, to speak life to what we do want. And same thing as putting on the new man, speaking life consistently about what we do want. And as I'm looking at the cover of the book, and with what you were just stating, Ray, like about the three lower energy centers, if you look closely, there are three images of the individual, right?
Yes.
Like you can see three noses, three faces. And I'm interpreting that as like going through, like rising above those three lower centers to get to the field.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you. I never saw that before. And the way that, just hearing you read that was like, yeah, that's what I'm going to stick with. So thank you for that.
Oh, that's sweet.
Huge.
Yeah, that's sweet.
Hey
And that's,
Ray, at the
yes,
event he does that. He has the. I don't know if you've ever been to an event, Lynn, but he has that tree that he shows going through the tree, and the root is getting to nobody, no thing, nowhere, no time, and he shows this squiggly line going all over the tree, and before you finally get to the root. So yeah, that is cool, and the cover of the book is kind of like the maze.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
that
And thank you.
windy road you take.
Yep. And thank you for bringing that image, because I remember, seeing that, and there was so much to that. And yeah, there's just so many ways, right? So many religions, so many philosophies, so many images to bring it all home. And I'm just so grateful. Thank you, Ray. And thank you, everybody, for contributing and just helping so much to clarify and support and encourage all of this.
thank you. That's sweet. Thank you, Lynn. Okay, that's a good segue. I love it when I get a good segue to my very next paragraph. That was great. If we consistently, I'm on page 33. If we consistently emanating energy, and we're energy beings, so we're all the time radiating, and therefore sending information to the field and receiving information from it, how do we communicate more effectively with it? It's not that we're not communicating. We're just not communicating effectively, right? Upcoming chapters will talk in length about how to enter the field. For now, what you need to know is that to enter the field, which exists beyond space and time, you have to enter in a similar state. In other words, be what you want your future intent to be. Be now. A long time ago when I was a young man, there was a little meditation book. I think it was Hindi, and the title of the book was "Be Here Now, Now Be Here." That was true then. It's true now. I just had no idea what that book was about when I read it. It's like, what is he talking about? Now I understand. And that's what it is. You have to enter in a similar state. And then he talks about, do you ever drive and get a few miles down the road and go, uh-oh, I don't remember getting here? You forgot about your body for a moment. You forgot about your mind, your environment. You got entrained on something, and your automatic nervous system took over and kept you safe on the road. Everybody's done it. If you drive a road 100 times going back and forth to work, every now and then you zone out and you come to almost in a state of panic. What happened? And you're still on your lane and you're still doing fine. And yet for a moment you checked out. That's what we're working with, that part of our mind that keeps us safe. Sometimes it works against us. But this is a real experience. One of the things that I want to make sure everybody understands, at no time will you ever hear me say this is special. This isn't. Every person can do this. If this old guy, when it started sick, angry, and stressed out, can have a victory in this because I insisted on success in this. I believed it would work if I would just do the work. And so I stuck to it, and I had my success. I had my healing. Not only a healing in my body, but a healing in my consciousness like crazy. The bigger healing was my energy. In fact, it was the change of energy that healed my body. When I had my healing, I used to say, I had a miracle. And it took me a while to understand I didn't have a miracle. I had a change of energy, and my body responded. And that's what we're talking about here. What if you could change your mind, your thoughts, your feelings? I'm reading from page 34. And your way of being outside the bounds of time and space? What if you could change ahead of time and see the effects of those internal changes in your external world? You can. What has profoundly and positively changed my life, and I mean my life as well. Thank you for muting that. What has profoundly and positively changed my life, he says my life pertaining to him, and I am a witness to it, so I'll say my life pertaining to me, and the lives of so many others, is the understanding that changing one's mind and thereby having new experiences and gaining new insights is simply a matter of breaking the habit of being oneself. When you overcome your senses, when you understand that you are not bound by the chains of your past, when you live a life that is greater than your body, your environment, and time, all things are possible. The universal intelligence that animates the existence of all things will both surprise and delight you, and you'll know what love is at that point. It wants nothing more than to provide you with access to all you want. In short, when you change your mind, you change your life. And that is also my testimony, because my big healings changed my mind dramatically. My identification of who I was changed in that moment. I changed my mind and my life changed. I'm getting toward the end of this chapter in what I wanted to talk about. This chapter is mostly an introduction to the rest of the first part of this book. Uh, Chapter 2 is about your second energy center. Chapter 3 is about your first energy center. Chapter 4 is about your third energy center, the solar plexus. Chapter 6, no, Chapter 5 is kind of the summation of it. And then Chapter 6 starts talking about what I would refer kind of like a little bit about the heart center. And Chapter 7 has I've named it, I've given it a subname. You know, you can, if it's so easy, then why is it so hard to do? Because when you go through it, it sounds like, well, you just do this. Well, you just forgive your past, you just heal it, and then you bring it in. Okay, now you're in your heart center and you let go. And then you get to Chapter 7 and he gets honest. And it's like, okay, if it's so easy, then why is it so hard? That's the outlines of the next few chapters. So what we got today is an overview of we are not biological beings. We are energy beings with a biological expression. And that biological expression is itself an energy being. When we learn to tune that energy, become coherent in it, amazing things about your life will change. Amanda, I see your hand.
Thank you, Ray, and it's good to be back here again. I have a question for you directly. After doing this work for over a year now, I think the process is becoming more and more deep for sure. But one of the obstacles I have is not just the sense that I can, say it was a bad day or that was a bad day about my own past. It's I get stuck on how it might have impacted others. And I understand even the example that we heard today from the Israeli doctor who did the test on the people praying for people in the past and how the past can change. I just wanted to know from you how you, if you could help me flesh out that whole process, how even if our unconscious behavior in the past might have impacted others, by us changing now, they are no longer impacted by our past unconscious behavior, to sort of help me free myself from that added layer of burden.
I understand. For many people, they have past that hurts them, and the past hurt them. For me, not only did my past hurt me, but I was the instigator of pain for a number of people. You ever heard the expression hurt people hurt people? Well, this hurt person got tough enough where he started sharing the pain. You know, you ever see that Boy's Life ad about the little kid who was on the beach and the bully kicked sand in his face and he grew up to be strong? Well, that's the story of me, but instead of growing up to be strong and peaceful, I grew up to be strong in the bully. And my favorite thing was to cause unpleasantness to bullies that crossed my path. Well, when I started doing this work and I started learning about love and things like that, remember that little part that Sean brought up where you try to change and your past says, what about me? I had a lot of that to deal with. And I had to figure out that question right there. What do I do with the hurt, not only that was caused to me, that I caused to others? And I had to realize that I cannot heal someone else. Not with this. I can help the energy heal their body, but just like someone else cannot make me let go of my anger, I can't make someone else let go. What I can do is I can diminish it by me letting go, and that I stop adding energy to it. It's an odd thing in my awareness that there are people who are sensitive to energies, and they can find energy, find people's energy, and they can tune into it, and they can describe the person, right? You've heard of those. There are people who can tune into things. You lost something, they can tune into you and then tune into a thing. That makes sense to me. But what's amazing to me is that there are people who can tune into events that are energized. People are sensitive enough that they can find that event. There's nothing there. It's an event. Then they describe the event. We're holding on to an energy event, and it's up to us to let go of our part. We had a lady talk about earlier, as she healed, she didn't have to worry about healing other people around her. She healed, and the people around her affected and was lifted by it. It's like that. You let go of what you're holding on to. Remember the part in this book where it says you cannot bring your body, your consciousness, your time, none of that goes into the kingdom. You go in empty-handed. You got to learn to let go of it. Is it easy? Oh no. Remember the part that John was talking about. Every time we go to change, our past comes in and says, what about me? You've got to let go of these things to become that new thing. And it takes real, deliberate, conscious creating to do it. And you don't rehearse it. You don't relive it. You don't go telling everybody about it. All that does is drive new brainwaves, new energy into the memory. You go, yeah, I remember that day. And whatever game you can play in your mind, you diminish it. If you put value on it, your cortex is designed to remember what you value. That was a terrible day. And your mind goes, oh, that's important. I'll remember that terrible day. Got me? You want to devalue it so your mind goes, oh, it's nothing important. I can forget that. That's the goal. To devalue it, say, yeah, that was a bad day. Yeah, I was really out of control that day. Yeah, I hurt that person. I wish her well. I give her love. I heal. I send energy so that those wounds can heal. And I let go of it as just, yeah, that was a bad day. Now let me show you what I'm doing. And I remember that part about change. So this is what I'm doing now. See how I've changed my heart. See how my tree, how big it's grown. I've got symbols all around me like this. Very subtle ones, but they're there. Because that's how I let go of my unpleasant past. We'll use that word. Did that help?
Yes, yes. Thank you very much, Ray. Just one thing, and I know you've covered it, but it's it's my part that's holding on, or that's saying, "What about me?" There's often in me a sense of abandoning my responsibilities is the only way I can describe the emotion of if I don't kind of hold on to that. It's almost as if I'm not taking responsibility for my own unconscious behavior, and that I feel that I should. Can you help?
You are responsible for your present moment. In that, wisdom says to be responsible for your present moment, you have to let go of your past. I did not say forget it. You're driving down the road and you hit a hole in the road, a pothole, and it goes bam, bam, scares the hell out of you. You're driving down that same road a week later. Did you forget that hole was there? No, you're supposed to remember events like that. But you're not supposed to be terrorized with it for the whole length of the week. When I drive down the week, you're just supposed to remember it and says, oh, that pothole is there. I'm going to drive around it. It's not the event. It's how you hold on to it, how you interpret it that matters. That event is written in the book of life. The interpretation is free for you to create and let go. Yeah, that was a bad day. Diminish the value for now. You can even build on it. Yeah, that was a bad day. That made me stronger now. I understand the, the greatness of forgiveness now. I understand the pain that I was in that made me overreact then. And I've healed that. Look at how much I've changed now. And I find a way to find peace with me now. It's all about now. How are you dealing with, how do I deal with my ugly past? I find I was in a survival mode. My biggest crime you could charge me with was I was simply trying to survive, and I was expressing venom to do that. Now, could you really fault somebody who is fighting for his survival? You might say he didn't have wisdom of how to do it, but that's all it was, really. You were all this stress is all about survival. It's all about the conflict of our understanding and the lack of wisdom. Learn to let go. You'll hear me talk about this all the way through the 3 books. Here's something that I'm surprised I'm bringing up in the first lesson. I have a list of contradictions. I was doing a book one time, and somebody says, "Ray, it sounds like you're giving a bunch of contradictions." I said, "No, I'm not." And I thought about it that week. I went, I am. There is a contradiction in this work. There's a whole set of them. In fact, what goes into the kingdom contradicts what's survival. We do what's logical in survival, but what's in the kingdom is contradiction. In survival, going into the darkness, this is my verse. You go into the darkness to find the light. You go into the silence to hear that still voice. You go in as nothing to find the infinite potential. You go in alone to find a chorus of voices waiting for you in love. There is a contradiction in what I'm saying. But you let go of the past so that you can have a clean present moment, so that you can integrate your past self, because you're holding your past like this because it's ugly and it's painful. You got to quit doing that to integrate your future self, because your future self is held back just like your past self. Why? They're the same self. They're you. You can't have your future self if you're holding out your past self, because it's you. You divided yourself. Let your past self come to you by freeing your hands so you can receive like a child. Then your future self will come to you and you can create a new future self. Laura, that's good. Events of themselves don't have meanings. We give them the meaning and the value. If the event of itself doesn't have a meaning, we can let go of the meaning that we gave it. That was a good note, Laura.
Could I share a visual that speaks to this as well, potentially?
Sure, Sean.
So you know how we have like an energy field. Everyone has their energy field, and if we just drew that like a circle, and then we have an event in our lives, in our past, that has an energy field. So I could draw another circle that represents that, and how I interact with it is going to be that kind of fish overlapping. I don't know. Can y'all see that or not? Yeah. So that overlapping part in the center there, that's that shared, there's a shared space there, a shared energy going on. So if my color, to use color as the example of emotions or my state of being, if I'm blue and the event or the trauma is blue, whatever I'm remembering is blue, then that shared space is going to be blue. But when Ray is going over, hey, we're going to change how I am with the event. The event is the event, but how I respond to it is up to me. And I'm playing with that. So that response is me playing with what color I am. what if I was green? What if I felt like green? Now all of a sudden, I've changed my relationship with this thing. It's not blue anymore. It's going to be yellow, right? Wait, is that right? Or if I'm yellow, then it's green. Yellow and blue make green. That's what I'm going for. Huh. Um, I don't know if that makes sense or not, or if that's helpful. Sometimes stuff like this helps to simplify for me
Yeah. It's
the
all about changing,
relationships.
yeah, it's all about changing your relationship to the event.
Thank you. Yeah, that's great. Thank you.
Easier said than done when you're in the habit of holding up and you have a program in you wanting justice for something that was very foul done to you, right? The, the survival mode wants justice. I'm sorry. You might have justice in this world, but in the field, you've got to let go of it and just let go of it and let karma take its own way. It's a hard
Sometimes I
lesson.
sometimes I say to myself, do I want to be right or do I want to be happy?
There it is. Wow, that got to be a pretty sensitive conversation today. I was wondering how this chapter was going to go. I
Well,
loved it.
thank you so much. Yeah, thank you.
You're
Amazing
very welcome.
questions.
Yeah, that was a very sensitive, and that was a good summation of the chapter too. That was really good. Um, yeah, that was a good summation. Sandra, I see your hand up.
That was very good what you just said. It was spectacular, changing the meaning of the event. And yes, that it is it's true when you want to make justice, right? But in the energetic field, I am trying to change that. And like Sean was saying about the graphic, like he was saying, like your energy is a specific color and you have a problem and an issue with another person, and it's out of your hands to fix it, but how you can shift the frequency energetically, that is the thing. Justice could be one thing, could be a restriction order, could be a peace bond, could be whatever it is by law in this 3D structure. But energetically, how do you do it? Like energetically, you could send love to the person, but compassion to the person, but it's not changing anything. So how do you change that energetically, Sean or Roy? You know, it's something energetically that I have that question, not just by thought alone. It hasn't working for me, unfortunately.
So to go back to that visual of those two circles,
Yeah.
if that color's blue and I've been blue and I'm going to change to yellow, then that shared eye is going to turn green, and that green is also shared with that blue, so now it's going to spill over, it's going to bleed over, it's going to be imperceptible. It's part of that when, where, and how that Dispenza speaks of, that's out of our hands sort of a thing. And so the time, the when, I don't know, but I have to know that it is done. That green is going to spill over and begin to influence all the blue circle. So the blue winds up, that's how people change. When we change, how people in our lives, all of a sudden they're acting differently. Forever, I've been trying to get this person to behave a certain way. And then I learned about, well, if I will just change how I look at the situation, that's supposed to make a difference. And the next thing you know, that person is behaving differently. They're not doing the same thing. And it's in that way that it's happening. But so this is a very simplified, kind of almost in a vacuum sort of explanation. And life is so much more than that one simple thing, right? There's so much. We have all these other interference patterns of all our other thoughts, all our other beliefs about all the rest of life that are also rippling into and bumping into, and so all these other colors are being introduced. So it's not happening in this little test tube, but that is what's happening again and again and again. I don't know if that helps at all. It ultimately, what I'm saying is, you're going to persist in being different, and you will see changes in your life. When you know, like I've honestly chosen to respond differently to life when I used to go at it one way, you will see the effects reflected back to you. Hands down. Anyone who's persisted will testify to that, I'm certain. Anyone who's gone at this long enough will say yes. I hope that's helpful and encouraging.
Thank you. Thank you, John.
You're welcome.
All right. I think that's a good wrap for tonight. Good introduction to breaking the habit of being yourself. All these comments, all these questions, all were on point. How do we, in a practical sense, change who we've been? How do we change the programming in us so that we can be conscious creators of our new self? How do we forgive the events that we hold on to our past and our survival so that we can be I don't like the word better, a more energy person starting now. All these things are letting go and tuning in to our new future self. And we will deal with that one step at a time as we go through this book. Amanda, did you have one more thing to say before I close for tonight?
No, Ray, that was really good. I really appreciate it. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I'm also really appreciating coming back to this second round. Everything I read and hear, it's got so much more practical value, having spent a year applying myself to this and noticed tremendous changes. But I feel like I'm so much more receptive now, and it's a real treat. So thank you.
You're welcome. I'm glad you came. I liked your input.
Thank you.
So from here, I'm going to say, I'm going to end the recording, stop the recordings, say good night, and in a few moments, we will go into meditation. It's going to be for Dr. Joe, it's going to be rather short. It's only about 20-30 minutes. And then we can talk more openly just about whatever's on your mind. I give that just kind of a general discussion at that point. Thank you all for staying on subject, on point. That really made for a very good chapter 1. I was wondering how it would go, and I'm very pleased how it did. Thank you all for being there. Okay. End of recording. Thank you.
Recording stopped.
Thank you, Ray.